Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. McNallie Money, the official home of power mining analysis. An eventful start to the trading week with the Bitcoin miners popping off this morning, specifically those with HPC aspirations. That's what we're going to be discussing in today's presentation, taking a deep dive look into the anticipated HPC players in the Bitcoin mining space and how their stocks have performed to date. With that being said, take a second, hit the like button, guys. Big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comments section below which of these 5 companies you think will ink an HPC deal first with a hyperscaler. With that being said, let's get into today's video. All right, guys, away we go once again. Monday afternoon here, Anthony. Quite an event-filled start to the week here. Bitcoin price not doing a ton over the weekend, stuck just below 18,000. We've seen as high as 19,000 this morning, but trending in that range we've talked about consistently on the channel. The Bitcoin miners, however, a very strong start to the week. A number of miners were up double-digit percentages this morning. IREN absolutely off to the races. However, there was a specific pattern with the movements we noticed, Anthony, and it was most of the HPC-related Bitcoin miners or those with HPC plans in their near future here. So an interesting day. Miners starting to retreat a little bit, but that's going to be the topic of discussion for today's podcast.
Yeah, we saw some great activity literally as markets were opening. In fact, it looked to be predominantly a red day when pre-market. All of a sudden, within 10 minutes of opening, we saw a lot of activity, effectively a lot of volume in a number of these stocks as well, and some really, really big increases off the chart. So IREN today, share price at the moment, in the $19 range now, $19.75, but it was as high as $21.54 today. That just goes to show you, and it happened in really, really quick time as well. Blew through 19, blew through 20 and 21. $21.54, that's a 52-week high for them. 51 million shares traded. Their average volume for the last 3 months has been 21 million shares. And we're literally, about 3 hours from market open. So phenomenal amount. Riot, 84 million shares traded in Riot today. They're having a great day as well. Their share price was up to close to $16, $15.87. And so, a lot of these miners, as you say, the ones that are looking to utilize some of their power towards HPC, having a really green day. Bitfarms leading at the moment now. They're well over 12% up. Bitdeer up there, Hive are up there, DigiHost are up there, or DigiPower as they're now termed. Cipher Mining's up there, Soluna, TeraWulf, all these companies in the green are all the ones that are looking to utilize the power. Then you go down to sort of like the more what we class as the pure play Bitcoin miners. Actually, CleanSpark barely level at the moment. Mara's actually down now. The largest Bitcoin miner out there. So that's more trending with the Bitcoin price. But there looks to be a lot of interest in HPC. We've already seen a number of miners manage to get good sized contracts. TeraWulf, Core Scientific, Applied Digital, Galaxy. So there's a lot of companies out there that have managed to get deals. There's quite a few companies, and we'll talk about some of those ones today, who are looking to get the next deal.
We certainly will, and you can see 5 highlighted on the list here. So we're going to be taking a look at IREN, Cipher, Hive, Riot, and Bitfarms. Going to be going through each one of these in detail, Anthony, profiling their current HPC plans or future aspirations and where they're currently at in terms of that progression. Now, by no means are we singling these companies out or saying they're the only ones that could get involved in the HPC space. We know there's others that are already playing in this sector, but these seem to be the 5 that we continue to hear in terms of speculation or rumors that they could be having a deal inked at any moment here. So we'll kick it off with IREN just based on this morning's share price move. Now, we were looking around the internet, as you said, Anthony, looking for some news. Obviously, a lot of people on X or the social media retail community have picked up on the IREN story here. Our friend Bitcoin Butcher has put out a sum of the parts analysis with a lofty target of $300 per share. We also have Eric Jackson, the hedge fund manager. We've referred to many of his tweets on the channel. And even Franz Baker, who's one of the core IREN supporters here, Anthony, posting a tweet today saying, when is a deal coming, or when deal? So IREN looking very well positioned to capitalize on this HPC expansion.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been talking about utilizing some of their power for HPC for a long time. They actually provide a HPC on-demand service at the moment, and they're using, their own purchased GPUs to deliver that service. That's been growing over the last year or so. They should be receiving their order of B200 and B300 Blackwell machines imminently now to increase the number of GPUs they have at that site there to 4,300, with potential capacity for about 20,000 GPUs there. So operating maybe when they get these new GPUs plugged in around about probably just over 20% of their capacity. Without the 2,100 GPUs on order, they're achieving about $28 million in annualized revenue. So the new Blackwell machines will certainly increase that amount there, probably over 50 million of annualized revenue, with more to come. But that type of service is very capital intensive. You've got obviously not only just building the facilities for HPC, you've got to buy the GPUs. And as much as I like HPC for mining companies, I pretty much prefer the co-location deal, because that takes the risk of having to keep changing GPUs when the next model comes out. I mean, these companies that are doing the on-demand service now, we've got a few out there. Hive Digital we'll talk about in a little while, and IREN. They've been doing this for the past 18 months, and they're already onto the sort of like the third generation of GPUs. So, how much of the H100 is delivering in terms of efficiency and effectiveness after 18 months, and how long are they going to last for? They're going to last long enough to give their buyback and make profits post them. We'll hear more about that when we get to that sort of time frame, I suppose, because they're still within the sort of like time frame where they haven't fully made that return on initial investment. I mean, Dan Roberts came on and said, 2 years generally is the case for a machine to deliver its return on investment, and then you start making profits in that third year. So we know the energy cost is fairly low. It's literally about 2% of the revenue that they receive there. But the cost of these machines are enormous to start with, and I'm more in favor of the co-location deal. Take the risk of those machines off the table, take the risks of the power off the table, and just provide the facilities. That seems to be the great deal.
Yeah, you're quite right there, Anthony. And interesting with IREN, almost unique in the space. They're following two strategies here. So they've got the vertical integration strategy in Canada, Prince George. You can see fully operating those GPUs. Like you say, Anthony, the difficulty there is you're almost handcuffed by how quickly you can grow based on how quickly you can purchase the GPUs. Then you start talking about the powered shell or the co-location model. So I'll let you get into that next. If we look at their most recent monthly update, you can see in terms of the AI cloud service, those two highlights you just mentioned, Anthony, the fact that their current hoppers are near full capacity or full utilization, which is great, those new orders. Then when you start talking about the AI data centers here, obviously the procurement, the discussion for these long lead items and potential clients is undergoing. So if we now look at the other side of the coin here for IREN in terms of the powered shell co-location, can you talk to us a little bit about what they have going on there?
Yeah, so they're building the facility at Childress, which is the 50 megawatt Horizon 1. That's going to be energized in Q4 this year. And Dan's very optimistic that they'll be able to name a client for that site there. Even so much so that they've already started planning Horizon 2 at Childress, which is another 50 megawatts of HPC compute power. And then they have these two sites at Sweetwater 1 and 2, which is a total of 2 gigawatts of power. Sweetwater 1, 1.4 gigawatts, due to be energized in 2026, and Sweetwater 2, which is a further 600 gigawatts of power, that'll be energized in 2027. And I think the expectation is obviously as they complete the Childress sites there and start then focusing on Sweetwater, the clients will be named for literally all those sites then, because the demand for this, as Dan articulated on the podcast, is significant. What they're delivering at the moment in the US in terms of power towards HPC, and what they really require is something like a tenfold difference. And these mining companies just happen to have gigawatts of power available at some of their locations, which can be better serviced providing HPC than it can be potentially providing Bitcoin mining services.
Yeah, very, very well said there. Now, question for you, Anthony. IREN's market cap this morning surpassed $5 billion. Now, I know the screenshot we have here, it's sub 5 billion, but again, you had said it was north of $21 per share. My question to you is they do not have a HODL. So consider CleanSpark a close peer in terms of the Bitcoin mining comparison, 50 exahash, a vast difference in market cap. So there's got to be some component of HPC anticipation built into this share price. My question for you, Anthony, is do you think the market is most excited about the vertically integrated Prince George facility, about the Horizon 1, the Horizon 2 announcement, or potentially this Sweetwater? Or do you think it's some amalgamation of all of this HPC opportunity?
No, I think it's a combination of all. I mean, if they can get everything to, to utilize the services that they're trying to deliver, get those customers in there and have that high utilization, I think the on-demand service in Canada would be equally as good. And the co-location, because of the size of those sites, you think about the TeraWulf deal with Core 42, that's a 50 megawatts initial contract there. So, Childress would be certainly on the lines of that there. Not nowhere near as big as what Core Scientific and Core Scientific and CoreWeave are trying to do, but they've got sites that are literally, just starting to be prepared, ready for, energization. So there's still, like to say, a couple of years away from those sites being fully operational. But, you want to have that planning process in place there to deliver in a timely manner for these big hyperscalers as well. They can't just put everything on in one go. They have to plan because obviously they've got to invest in these sites. They've got to order the GPUs. NVIDIA won't just have a conveyor belt of millions of GPUs come off they have to be delivered and ordered and purchased in a timely manner. So, the way that some of these miners are set up now, it might work in their favor that they have sites in a more manageable time frame. So that, that 2 to 3 years might work really well. I think the market's definitely got IREN priced in to deliver something on here. And I think the fact that Dan's so optimistic about the Childress site there, we'll probably hear something, as I say, in the next few months to say this is the client that's going into there. And I think what will happen then, that's the domino effect there. But remember, we had the same feeling about Core Scientific as well with the CoreWeave. That's a 590 megawatt deal. That's a $10 billion deal, for over the next 12 years. And yes, there's been an initial acceptance of an offer made by CoreWeave for Core Scientific. Shareholders and the institutions have still got to vote on that deal there. And we've talked about the value of that deal, but Core Scientific's share price today suggests their market cap's about 4 billion. So they're $1 billion less, and they've got a deal on the table. There's no deal at the moment with IREN, other than the fact they're building a facility really, really quickly in readiness to announce a deal. So unless Dan's got something really under the table, we'll hear in the quarter four what's going to happen. I don't think he'll let us down. He tends to be a straight shooter. He told us about all the various increases in hash rate delivered in every one of them. And believe you me, there were some ambitious targets. We sat here a year ago when they were trying to get to 20 exahash, and he announced a 30 exahash increase in that, and they've delivered it in less than 12 months. It's phenomenal. And I expect them to do the same with HPC as well. They've had this 18 months now, understanding the business of delivering HPC, not just delivering data centers, but actually delivering the service. And so they've got that under the belts there, and they've grown that service, they've grown customers, they've grown utilization. So I anticipate both types of contract to deliver both really well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Anthony. They have a history of delivering, and we've also seen some key hires coming in, specifically from Macquarie, to support the team as they continue with this HPC strategy. So, again, when you're looking at market caps here, you guys, we talk about volatility in the Bitcoin mining space. It's not just share price, but the market caps of these companies moving around a lot over the last few quarters as well, Anthony. So, in terms of speculation, Iron, there's definitely some component of that priced in. Cipher is another one that we've heard a lot of discussion about. Not only is it their facilities, but the team that they have and the ability or knowledge to build these high level data centers. Now, over the weekend here, we've seen a number of people posting on Twitter that some sort of a deal is imminent here. A massive deal has been leaked. Something's coming along the pipeline. Even our good friend Mike Alfred saying his spidey senses are tingling that Cipher may have a hyperscaler deal teed up and ready to go. So this is the next one I wanted to talk about, Anthony. A large institutional ownership. BlackRock owns 6.5% of Cipher currently. A lot of people in the retail community excited about this one as well.
Yeah, and we've had Tyler on the podcast, and he was optimistic to expect to announce something in 2025 as well. So like Dan, they've been building out facilities. They've obviously got Black Pearl site there, which has just been energized. 150 megawatts of the 300 that's assigned to that site is already energizing Bitcoin miners as they're being installed. The clever thing now is what the other 150 megawatts is going to be used for, and that could potentially be used for HPC. 150 megawatts would give, more than 100 megawatts of compute capacity there. Yeah, and probably about 20% auxiliary power to support it. So I think, I think there's real potential there. And I think with Black Pearl and with the Childress site, both of these CEOs have said, should the demand be for HPC, then they're quite prepared to put HPC across the whole site and move mining elsewhere or do whatever with mining because, we talked about the Bitcoin mining industry. It's great for the likes of these two. Actually, it's funny we talk about Cipher and Iron. These two are probably the two of the that have the best margins in terms of power costs and efficiency of mining machines. So they've got great fleets. They've got the lowest power costs of the miners, of the peer miners in North America, which is the two elements that you require to have low cost mining. So as difficulty gets higher, as we approach another halving, how many of these miners really want to start thinking long term about buying more new machines for Bitcoin mining when actually the name of the game at the moment appears to be high performance compute and AI. It seems to be on everyone's tongue every day because we're seeing all the posts surrounding it. We're all using artificial intelligence pretty much on a daily basis anyway now, and it's here to stay. It's not a fad. I mean, just like the World Wide Web, when people said this will never last, well, we're still using it over 30 years later, and I don't think we'll stop using HPC or AI in that period either. So here to stay, and probably the model is a better model in terms of predictability. Yes, if the Bitcoin price goes to $1 million in the next couple of years, what does that mean for miners? It means great in the short term until you see another 2 million mining machines go online and the difficulty gets even higher and your share of the Bitcoin production drops to a smaller amount. But as the difficulty increases, that percentage reduces unless you're growing hash rate. Now, we know that Mora want to go 75 and CleanSpark want to go 60. But Cipher might determine, actually, you know what? We're going to go HPC all in because we've looked at the numbers and it's a great return on investment. And believe you me, Dan and Tyler will look at return on investment when making that decision and not just Bitcoin's here to stay and the Bitcoin price is going to be this amount in a few years' time. I don't know what the Bitcoin price is going to be in a few years' time. I don't know what the Bitcoin price is going to be in the next 10 minutes, never mind tomorrow or next year. So that's the challenge. And I think Cipher have effectively moved the right way, and we'll come on to some of these extra sites that they've purchased recently to help them progress that strategy.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, Anthony. You talk about the fact that these hyperscalers may want to really grow with these miners in terms of expanding these megawatts over the next few years. If you look at Cipher's portfolio, not only do they have Black Pearl and Barbara Lake coming online or targeted in 2025, they have Stingray in 2026 and a whole host of sites three of which are 500 megawatt sites that are targeted in 2027 onward. So you talk about that future pipeline or capacity, Anthony, there's a lot of it in Cipher.
Yeah, there's the four more sites there. These ones that were more recently purchased, totaling 1.57 gigawatts of power. Now, obviously, they are just probably pieces of land at the moment, and will need some, significant amount of work to get to a position where they can deliver what they can deliver. But when you're looking at this from a time frame, they have probably enough power to keep them going in terms of models and strategy for the next probably 5 or 6 years, as they progress through these sites and deliver. And the amount of revenues that HPC delivers, that's going to be, great revenues in those early years to help cover some of the costs in the later years. And once they've got all the sites up and running, then it's literally, a very quick turnaround. The return on sort of like investment, if you look at the borrowing that Core Scientific did, they were able to, in the model, pay back CoreWeave within just over 2 years, and still each of those first 2 years achieve a 30% margin, total margin, after paying back the agreed amount in years 1 and 2. And then the margins went up to between 70 and 80% for the remaining 10 years. That's significant. And if Cipher can get a deal across all their sites like that then they're going to be sitting really well moving forward.
Yeah, they certainly are. Now, as we transition to Bitfarms, talking about multiple sites, they also purchased a host of facilities off Stronghold. So they sold off the Paraguay Iguazu site to Hive. They've now transitioned or focused on the US here, picking up a number of sites, 4 from this transaction, 3 of which are in Pennsylvania. And we've been hearing a lot of excitement both from CoreWeave, Amazon, a number of the hyperscalers about this Pennsylvania region. Its geography and its location to a lot of these big urban areas. So if you look across the Bitfarms portfolio here in terms of their HPC strategy or side of the company, checking all the boxes here, Anthony, across multiple sites.
Absolutely. And, CoreWeave just announced a $6 billion investment in Pennsylvania, Amazon at 20 billion. Yeah, and a number of other big schemes going on in Pennsylvania. So with Bitfarms having purchased Stronghold Mining earlier this year, that deal was completed in March. That gave them access to the Panther Creek site and a number of other sites, Scrubgrass sites. They purchased Sharon separately, but they've got these 4 sites now in Pennsylvania that hit every tick in the box. They really can provide everything. And we've heard from some of the people in the industry outside of Bitfarms talk about Panther Creek itself. Back when we went to Mining Disrupt, and they were saying it was a fantastic site with great potential. Share price doing really well today on the back of those other shares in the HPC space doing well, and maybe we need to hear something from Bitfarms. They've had a bit of a tough time over the last 18 months. They've had the potential takeover from Riot Platforms. The share price has lost ground when other share prices, we talked about IREN share price reaching 52-week highs today. Well, Bitfarms share price is still a long way from 52-week highs, but it has seen some green shoots today and is above that $1 amount, which it needs to maintain now to keep in line with for the NASDAQ requirements. So we'll be monitoring that over the next few weeks to make sure it can stay above that. I think it's 30 consecutive days. And so this is good news. And also the fact now we're seeing Riot basically offset their investment in Bitfarms. So that deal didn't help either company at all, and hopefully Bitfarms can sort of recover. Riot share price as well today, we'll come on to that in a second, that also recovered. So maybe the market's now looking at the decision that they made to remain their own companies as starting, or will start to prove well for each of them. But these sites here potentially really acceptable for HPC, and we look forward to hearing from Ben and the team as to next steps. Now, you mentioned about investment. Macquarie have effectively put up $300 million of investment towards Bitfarms. 50 million of that is already being utilised, and more will become available with the completion of certain drawings and designs to get ready then to actually go out there and deliver on those designs. So they have some initial investment there. I'm not certain of what other levers they'll have. They've got a small amount of Bitcoin on the balance sheet, and they'll also have access to maybe an ATM as well, which means they'll have to maybe dilute more shares. But let's just hopefully that the Macquarie 300 million gets them through a certain amount of this and starts bringing in potential clients, which can then maybe provide some additional resource to get through the remainder of the deal.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. And really, the first step here is maintain that $1 minimum listing price for the 30 days, Anthony, as you say. Then they really have a lot more flexibility. And as you talked about Macquarie, they can unlock this financing based on various tranches as they complete these feasibility or renderings of the Panther Creek. And you can see some of those images there, Anthony. Very sharp looking building, very Amazon, Google, Apple-esque, so to speak. And you also made reference to the Riot selling. Nice to see the share price recovering, moving up despite some of that selling pressure. So kudos to the team at Bitfarms and looking forward to seeing those Pennsylvania sites start to come online. Now, Hive is the next one we wanted to talk about. This one's a little bit unique as well. They've already got HPC running. They've got a variety of strategies here. Buzz HPC is the subsidiary. Craig Tavares is the president and COO. So he's going to be coming on the channel in August, the first week of August. We're going to be doing an HPC special on Hive and Buzz HPC. But this is another one, Anthony. They've been in the space for a while. They used to be an Ethereum miner. They had a lot of GPUs. They've had experience. They have the team. Just a matter of time until something big is inked here.
Yeah, the thing about Hive is they've done a lot of things organically over the last 4 or 5 years. They've not gone out there like some of the miners and really chased the ATMs on offer and diluted the company to grow quickly. And I suppose in hindsight they may have felt that was probably a strategy they could have used. But they're growing organically. They're now growing their Bitcoin mining business really well. And they've been doing the HPC as long as anybody out there in terms of the Bitcoin mining space. But it's been growing in a sort of like a manageable way. They repurposed a lot of the GPUs from the Ethereum mining days and started utilizing those. They've since bought the H100s from NVIDIA, and they've got a whole host of different models that they're bringing on now to get that revenue up there. I mean, they've already started to achieve 20 million of annualized revenue. So that puts them around about the same or slightly below what IREN delivering at the moment. And they have a target of 100 million of annualized revenue, which they've now set to achieve in 2026. So not quite sure when in 26, but probably maybe by the end of 2026, they'll get to 100 million of annualized revenue. By that stage, they'll be achieving maybe closer to 250 million of annualized revenue in Bitcoin mining. So, and when you consider their market cap today is probably hanging around the 300 million mark, that's a significant amount of revenues to come in for a company valued so little.
It certainly is. And they just made that data center purchase in Toronto area as well, 7.2 megawatts. So definitely making some moves there, Anthony. And another one to watch in terms of the HPC anticipation space here. Also worth noting, they're an NVIDIA cloud preferred partner. So definitely have an inroad with some of these GPUs. Again, a long-standing history in the space. So that's another one to keep an eye on. Now, finally, Riot, we wanted to talk about. So we just made reference to Riot as it relates to the Bitfarms saga that's now coming to a close. This one's interesting. We've really seen Riot's position on HPC shift over the last 12 months. Now they're going headfirst in at Corsicana here. You can see specifically laying that out in their key accomplishments or roadmap for the year. Also allocating a lot of funds towards the development of this HPC site.
Yeah, we were fortunate to be there back in June last year, and at that point in time, we were fully focused on 1 gigawatt of Bitcoin mining. But it's amazing how things can change in the space of 6 months. And by sort of late September, they started to come around to the HPC idea. I mean, majority of analysts that turned up at Corsicana were looking to hear about, would they utilize some of that remaining 600 megawatts for HPC? But at that point in time, no. And now we're seeing all that 600 megawatts is going to be put towards HPC. And that's good news because, it seems everybody's focused on delivering HPC in the mining space, with the exception of a couple of the miners. So, and the proof there with the type of contracts that we're seeing is they're pretty good deals. To be honest with you, the deals that have come out, all the deals that have been announced, the ones with Applied, Galaxy, TeraWulf, and with Core Scientific are all available online. You can have a look through those deals, and they're really, really good, predictable amounts of revenues. So you don't have to worry about any Bitcoin price or anything like that. And so Riot have felt, they've got a lot of power all on one site. They tick all those boxes that some of the other miners have had to go through as well. They've done a survey there by Altman Salon on the facility, and it matches up everything they need. They bought additional land to support what they're trying to do as well. They've got the water, they've got the fiber, they've got the know-how of building these data centers. The data center they built there for the immersion cooling, 400 megawatts, that'll be the largest immersion cooling site in the world. They'll put that technology to good use while building these data centers for high performance compute as well. And I think with the share price rising it did today, maybe we start, again in this next few months, hearing more from Riot. I'm hoping we've got Jason coming on, thinking about 2 weeks' time, just after earnings, to give an interview on performance of Riot, and maybe he's got some information at that point in time on how these conversations are going, because they've been having a number of conversations now. We know that the survey's been completed, and are they going to be in a position, by the end of this year to start announcing a potential client for the site at Corsicana?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of information we can get from Jason. And you're right, Anthony, compared to the Bitcoin mining side, very secretive on the HPC side. And that's what's leading to so much speculation or anticipation in the market. And I think a big reason why we're seeing these drastic share price or market cap swings is just the lack of information. We know all of these companies are working on HPC deals. We know they're having meetings, but we don't really know where they're at in that process. Case in point with Hut 8, that deal was all but announced by the local media, and we still haven't seen a press release from the company acknowledging or confirming any of the details. So difficult to get information, but trying to piece together the breadcrumbs for you, and you can see Riot continuing to progress along that development cycle. Now, in terms of the funding, Anthony, they're also pouring a lot of money into Corsicana to really make sure this is the best offering for a potential client or partner. Can you give us some of the highlights there on the CapEx side?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't named it obviously a partner yet, but what they have done is they put out their costs that they're going to incur this year on some of their sites there. So with regards to Corsicana, phase 2 capital expenditure, 38 million in this second half of the year now. That's for the 600 megawatt substation development and other long lead items. A further 55.7 million to acquire additional parcels of land, which I just highlighted, and the Cobalt Waterline project. And that's expected to be completed in the second quarter of 2026, so around about 12 months from now. And then they've also got some investment at the Kentucky sites there. Remember, they purchased block mining last year. So, we know that Riot have got a significant amount of cash balance at the moment, so they've got the money to invest there. They're obviously selling that Bitfarms shares fairly rapidly, although they are taking the hit on that, which was incurred in Q1. But that will help obviously generate enough cash for that there. Plus the fact they've got well over $2 billion in Bitcoin on the balance sheet untouched. If the worst comes to worst, they could always start utilizing some of that to grow the HPC business.
Yeah, another one we'll want to keep a close eye on, Anthony. And again, as we move into earnings period here, should get more detail on all 5 of these players. So let us know in the comment section below, which of the 5 discussed today do you think will be the first to ink a major hyperscaler or neo cloud deal in the foreseeable future? Let us know your thoughts and why. We'd love to read through that. Now, in addition to the developments we're seeing on the HPC side, we can't forget about Bitcoin. So these companies obviously deeply embedded in the Bitcoin mining space as well. Tomorrow, we're expecting Trump's administration to release a Bitcoin report, potentially with some anticipation or thoughts, next steps around Bitcoin acquisition strategy or that strategic national Bitcoin reserve. Again, we haven't heard a lot of discussion about in recent times, Anthony. Also worth noting, Trump himself as an individual, now around 8% of his net worth is in Bitcoin or crypto.
Yeah, and as well as that, his two sons are heavily invested as well. They're partners with the American Bitcoin Mining Company, which is a subsidiary of Hut 8. So it's obviously quite positive to see the president have such a significant amount of Bitcoin in his net worth, and also his family members also well engrossed in sort of like crypto and Bitcoin mining and anything to do with Bitcoin. So I think we'll see some favorable decisions coming that way to support that as well going forward.
Yeah, we've talked about that on the channel before, whether this is for personal gains and interest or for the betterment of the Bitcoin crypto community. Your guess is as good as ours, but either way, it does look to be moving in the right direction. Trump is not the only one buying Bitcoin. Michael Saylor hitting the ATM again over the weekend here. We got one of those cryptic tweets yesterday talking about the orange dots. Today, following that with a 6,220 Bitcoin purchase, Anthony, a cool $740 million to kick off the week.
Yeah, he's buying it, or sorry, Strategy are buying it, not Michael said himself, but the company's buying the Bitcoin, and they paid $118.940 per coin. And that's achieved their Bitcoin yield to date of about 20.8%. But he does buy it at the highs, so there's no stopping Strategy or Michael Saylor from making those decisions to buy more, and this will continue. They're looking to get a minimum of about 5% of all the Bitcoin out there, and they're probably approaching 3% at the moment. So if anyone's thinking of betting against them, think again, because they've been relentless for the last 5 years, and actually this last 18 months, I think the numbers have been through the roof in terms of how much they bought compared to, say, the first 3 years. A significant amount of Bitcoin, all at sort of like a lot higher prices.
Yeah, it really is accelerating in terms of the Bitcoin purchases, and it's kind of a self-fulfilling flywheel here. As the price of Bitcoin goes up, the share price goes up. He can then hit the ATM at a more favorable price, buy more Bitcoin, and the flywheel continues. So that one has been perfected by Strategy, and we're seeing now literally hundreds of other companies pile into that Bitcoin treasury or Ethereum treasury strategy, as we've seen pioneered by Michael Saylor. Now, the final piece here, Miner Madness. This is as of close on Friday. So to kick off the week here, you can see the leaderboard. I anticipate a lot of changes after today's market session, Anthony, with some of the moves we saw on the board today. But SP in first in terms of the overall leaderboard, and our good friend Freedom by 40 top place with BTBT as his number one pick on the analyst board.
Yeah, and nice to see that majority of people are in profit. So I'm just looking at the live board now, and I've just managed to go into profit slightly, and I'm at number 96 in the tournament. So there's obviously a lot of people ahead of me that are more in profit. So that's good to see. But yeah, it's early days in the tournament. These things can change, and today's share prices show that. Some of the share prices today, the Bitfarms one, higher than the rest, shows that if you pick the right stock, you can do really well.
Yeah, you certainly can, and it'll be interesting again to get the update based on today's close. So make sure you check out the website, all of this information in real time. You can also check out the live miner margin as we go into earnings season here. Going to be very interesting, along with a number of other key metrics, articles, podcasts, and anything else in the Bitcoin mining space. So with that being said, you guys, let us know in the comments section, which of the five do you think will ink an HPC deal first? Hit the like button, feel free to subscribe, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.